Welcome to day 2383 of What You Up To Now. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here, documenting my journey and sharing my experiences and chatting about and disclosing what's working, what's not working, the good, the bad, and the ugly in transitioning from the brick and mortar corporate world of businesses to the online world of business and back and forth again. I like to share different business industry insights that I glean over years and years of different businesses and different experiences. Well, today we're talking about sustainable architecture, which is fascinating to me. I love manufacturing, architecture, transportation, lots of different industries, because as unique and different as they all involve human beings, and human beings are awesome and amazing, and we're all snowflakes and different. We're all absolutely unique and perfect and different in our own right. But how we behave as human beings tends to be consistent over time. I see that in my own behaviors, and I shake my head sometimes. I'm like, okay, well, why did I just do that? Why did I just say that? Because it comes out like gobbledygook sometimes. If you've ever been communicating, you're like, I have no idea what I just said. Some mornings, some days are just like that. So today, as part of sustainable agriculture, a couple of new things that I always like it when I learn something new. And when I find out and learn new words and new terms for things. So a couple things that came up today were biophilic, which means the interaction between man and nature. And that's something that's being taken into consideration now when it comes to designing not only buildings and architectural buildings, but whole communities. Because we human beings, believe it or not, and if you've ever lived in a city, which I only lived in a city of a decent size when I was going to college, when I first went off to college, and I didn't like it. I missed being out in nature. I grew up on a small hobby farm in Wisconsin. It really wasn't a farm. We had a couple of horses and a couple of chickens and dogs, but that's not really a farm. But we called it the farm. We call it the hobby farm. And it was, I guess, considered a hobby farm. But grew up in a rural area where I could just go outside and walk in nature, walk through the gardens, pick flowers, and just spend time outdoors all day. And I know personally that I have a huge connection to nature. Nature recharges my batteries. If I'm having a bad day or I'm struggling with something, I just sit by a window if the weather is not permitting, or I get myself up and I go outside and I breathe. One of the best things we can do to have a more consistent and better reaction is just to take a couple of deep breaths and pause before we respond to something. I need to remind myself of that, especially during turbulent times, and we've definitely got some turbulent times going on here, at least here in America. Some stuff that just makes you shake your head, and you're like, have people gone absolutely batshit, poop crazy and lost their minds? Because that's the only thing that can explain it, right? That some of the stuff that goes on and some of the craziness. But that's a topic for another day. So besides biophilic, upgraded materials is another terminology that popped up, and I explored a little bit. And it basically means taking something that's trash and turning it into something different. It reminds me of the houses that people have created out of recycled bottles in the ocean, and it was trash, but they turned it into siding for their house. I saw a picture on that a few years ago, and I found it absolutely fascinating. Now, this is a little bit more sophisticated meaning, I think, than that, but that is an example that pops into my memory in my mind. But it's the recycled materials that are turned into 30-year or lifetime decking or deck furniture or patio furniture. It's those type repurposing of materials. They were something once, then they became trash, and now we're extending the useful life of those materials by turning them into something entirely different. And I think that's absolutely fascinating. So we talked about that. We talked about, why would you want to be sustainable as an architectural business or any other business? What are some of the trends impacting that? And how could you, if you so choose, incorporate those things into your business, no matter what kind of business or what industry you're in? And this is, of course, my humble opinion, but I think we always want to be building for the long term and for sustainability and viability, and a business that impacts the world in a positive way, makes the world a better place, and has a lasting positive impact on the people whose lives it touches. Just my opinion. Otherwise, what's the point? For supersized business, we're talking about the S the first step of the SOAP framework, which stands for story or situation. And we identify 2 stories when we're looking at this step of the SOAP framework. Number 1, we need to be super honest and say, where am I right now with respect to, we're doing confidence growth this month. So where am I with respect to the confidence area that I selected yesterday? What's my current story? And then what's my desired story or situation? Where do I want to be? Why do we need those 2 stories? Because we need to know where we're going. But in order to create the plan to get from where we are to where we want to be, we got to know where we are. And I honestly think sometimes it's harder to create the vision of the story that we want than the story that is our current situation. Now, if our current situation was 100% satisfying, it wouldn't even have popped into our mind as something that we want to use the SOAP framework for, or something that we want to improve. But since it does, then we need to find both stories. I like to actually write my current story first, because it's what's going on right now. And then I look at what parts of that do I not like and what do I want them to be. And that becomes my desired story. And again, that creates the gap that we're going to fill with the rest of the SOAP framework. I will say that's all I've got today. I've got a big project that I'm helping with today, so I need to get going. But if I can help you in any way, hit me up and ask, and I'll make sure you get your questions answered. Have an amazing day, and I'll, of course, be with you tomorrow. Bye.